So, we are now on the 9th chapter of Bodhicharyavatara, and I think we just have gone through this stanza number 5, which says, when ordinary folk perceive phenomena, they look on them as real and not illusory. This then is the subject of debate, where ordinary and yogis differ. It's not about whether the relative truth appears or not. Relative things will always appear. Sometimes in a pure way, as that to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, sometimes in a very impure way, like those of samsaric beings, and because of that, there's difference between enlightened beings, but they appear. It's not on whether they appear or the relative truth appears or not. That's not the contention of debate. It is, the way they exist, where you think they exist. That is the way you perceive. That's where the subject of debate is, subject of difference is between the yogis, and yogis here means those who are on the path or kind of more enlightened, and ordinary, very ordinary samsaric people. Also, as we have already explained, even among the samsaric state of mind people, there could be more deluded and a little bit more advanced, like people who have more shamatha, have more kind of meditative state, and their way of seeing is also different. Now we come to this stanza number 6. Forms and so forth, which we all perceive, exist by general acclaim, but not by valid reasoning. They are false, just like, for instance, unclean things regarded in the common view as pure. Now this, now from this onwards, now the commentaries by Pater Rinpoche or by Khenpo Gunpal, and the commentary by this Tome, Jase Tome, are slightly differently, differently presented. From the Khenpo Gunpal's commentary, from this onwards is a kind of questions asked by the Sharavakayana students or Sharavakayana followers. In the Tome, Jase Tome Zambo, it doesn't necessarily state like this. It's about, but these are all, clearing the doubts, clearing the debates. Here says, Zusu, Nusum Nichono, Dropping Semim. Then the Muzon Lasso, but Zonso Dropping the Now, some people say, like Zusu Ngusenjitribi Zambargalu Shanas. But these forms and all these things that we experience in the relative truth, they cannot be illusory. They cannot be. They are not, because it's clearly experienced and seen by people. It's you can't say it is illusory, because it's not illusory. I can touch it. I can see it. I can, it can obstruct me from going through. It's very real. If you say like that, then that's not, it's not. The answer is it's not because they are truly they are, what can you say, scientifically maybe you can say, or with true reason, if you look, it's not existing on its own, the form. It exists relatively, and for us it seems like it exists in a true way, because that's how we are used to look, we are used to see, we are used to for instance, there are things like even usually when we look at things and see things, some things like we think is real, but when you look deeply, or existing on its own, but when you look deeply, it doesn't remain like that. Like for instance, lots of people, ordinary people think what they desire, what they like, to be very, very wonderful and very clean and wonderful. We have lots of attachment to them. But when you look a little bit deeply, they are not like that clean. They are not like that much positive or desirable or wonderful. We see this often in our life also, so this is something we can also now, even an ordinary person can see, because when your mind is very attached to something, then you see it so beautiful, so wonderful, so desirable. But when we look a little bit more objectively, they are not like that. And so in the same way, we are used to see everything like form as totally existing, but then when you analyze things, like you see a building, and you think that building is existing on its own completely. But if you look a little bit deeply, then you find that the building is not one thing, it is so many different things together, like doors and windows and concrete and color and all different iron and things like that, and we take them apart, there's nothing called a building. And also, there's a brick. The brick is, we think that is totally existing on its own, but when you look a little bit deeply, it's so many atoms, and then atom we think is existing on its own, but when we look deeply into the atom is also so many things, and there is nothing existing totally on its own independently. So this way, we can understand that the form is not existing independently, so therefore, it's like illusorily, relatively existing, not ultimate. Then they say, but if that is the case, then you are going against the Buddha's words, and say, but that he might instruct the worldly, our protector. But that he might instruct the worldly, our protector spoke of things. But these in truth lack even momentariness. Now if you say it's wrong to claim the momentary as relative, now if you say it's wrong to claim the momentary as relative, there is no fault, for momentariness is relative for yogis, but for worldly beings ultimate, where it otherwise the common view could fold the yogic insight into corporal impurity. I think maybe this is the two stanzas. Jiten yupi tundun nguten tenyet, tada kechi manya mun, kanzu tonyong gal xena, nanjo kanzu nyeme te, jiten la tu tenyet, to yenda peme matsongwa, nye tu jiten tenyet. So, when things do not, if the things do not exist, again they say, if things do not exist in its true nature, then Buddha said that everything is impermanent and they are momentary. Everything exists momentarily. Why Buddha said that? Because that should be the ultimate. Seeing things, every material thing as what do you call the partless particle. That should be the ultimate truth, and everything exists momentarily, even the thoughts and emotions, there's momentary, so, partless or kind of partless momentariness, that should exist truly. That because that's what Buddha said. If they say that, then the answer given is Buddha said this, yes, but this is said only to lead people to slowly, step by step. For those who are too much attached to what they experience or what they say, then he knew, the Buddha knows, that it is difficult to understand everything is illusory or everything is emptiness. But the step by step, if Buddha taught that everything is momentary, is particles that's made of, and that is, then it would be easier for people to understand, and that is a step forward, so that they can have little less attachment or less grasping at things that they see. So because of that, Buddha said, everything is impermanent, everything is momentariness. So therefore he says, all these, things are like that. Because if you look a little bit deeper, then that momentariness or that, particle, the smallest particle that we cannot literally or we cannot practically divide, also cannot be truly existing as one, because maybe we don't have at the moment the capacity or device or machine to divide it, but now, for instance, the science is advanced so much that they can actually also dissect an atom and then find that atom is not one but has many things in it. So therefore, Buddha talked about that. Because of course this is not something that ordinary people or people with with our bare eyes cannot see it, but people who have the device to see it can see it, and also those who have more yogic power can see it also. And this, what Buddha said is useful, because, people will also, the understanding of how things are becomes a little bit more closer to how things are. So they will see things are not as it appears, but a little bit, more deeper than that. And so therefore, it is not totally ultimate, but it is one step closer to seeing things more way they are. So therefore, it is very useful. So that's how it is. So like, if somebody is too much attached to say, to something, and then you find that it's not totally, existing as we see it, but there are also all different kind of defects and all different kind of things there which is not as desirable, then it will help us to be not so caught up with that attachment. It will help, but that is not necessarily the ultimate thing. So therefore it is helpful. So I think I will stop here. 8. Stanza number 8. So Okay, thank you.